Kiss me under the light of 1,000 stars. Oh, darling, place your head on my beating heart. I'm thinking out loud that maybe we found love right where we are. Well, maybe we found love right where we are. And we found love right where we are.
WSNY and WSNY HD Columbus.
Welcome to Dentally Speaking with Dr. Kvitko, the show that brings you man-on-the-street interviews, celebrity guests, and groundbreaking research. Our show is also known as everything you've always wanted to know about dentistry, but we're too numb to ask. I'm general dentist Dr. Brian Kvitko, and thank you for joining me today.
The following views and opinions do not necessarily reflect those of this station, its staff, management, or parent company. To hear a replay of this show or one of the other great shows that previously aired, log on to dentallyspeaking.com or iTunes, keywords Dr. Kvitko or Dentally Speaking. Listeners should not use Dr. Kvitko's comments and advice in place of an actual dental exam.
Brighten your life with a smile that shows the professional touch of Dr. Kvitko.
Time now for Dentally Speaking with Dr. Kvitko to discuss your dental issues. Now, here's your host, Dr. Kvitko.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dentally Speaking. This is show number 380. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. It's going to be a beautiful day. It's always a beautiful day, but today especially, it's true. All right, today we're going to do the 16 things that can cause a crown to come off. Now, some people call them caps. They're the same thing. And what do you do if one does come off, and is it an emergency? All right. Now, before we get started, let me remind you that all of the shows we've ever done are archived at dentallyspeaking.com. Starting in 2015, we began video broadcasting as well. So if you go to, quote, listen to a podcast, you'll actually be able to watch the podcast. And if you want to watch live at any point, you can go to ustreamtv.com. That is U, just the letter U, not Y-O-U. Scroll all the way down, click on watch, then search for Dentally Speaking. Okay? And it's pretty cool. Hey, before we get started, I want to say happy birthday to my oldest son, Brian. I think he's listening, but if not, I'll have him listen to the podcast later. He has a couple little guys of his own, so he might be up tending to them. All right, so like I mentioned, crowns. Now, and so here's the thing. Crowns come off. The biggest reason people think crowns come off is they just think the crown failed. My crown just came off. So the automatic assumption is the dentist must have done something wrong. And you know what? There are several things. You're going to find out that 14 of these 16 can actually be attributed to the dentist. But more often than not, it is decay. Decay is the most common reason that a crown comes off. And people say, well, how can I get decay? It had a crown on it. It's completely covered. Well, you're right. It is completely covered. The problem is right around the edge where the crown and the tooth come together, that's where decay can get started. And if it does, it kind of ruins that seal. Okay, so decay is one of the big reasons why crowns come off. Something else would be eating very sticky candy. Something like, oh, I did this once at the fair. It was a candy apple, not a caramel apple, but a candy apple. That candy, I think they mixed it up wrong because it was so sticky that I couldn't get my mouth open. Now, and guess what? We, every once in a while, we have to try to get a crown off because we need to do a root canal, for example, and rather than putting a hole in the crown, we're going to hopefully take the old crown off, go do the root canal, and then re-cement the crown. Well, somebody came up with a product for us dentists to use, and they call it dental candy, or crown-removing candy. It's a mixture that you mix it up together, you put it in over the person's crown, you have them bite into it, and then the idea is when they open their mouth, it's going to pull the crown off. So there you go. I mean, caramel apples are okay and real apples are okay, but those really sticky candy apples could be problematic. Okay. Now, here's what happens sometimes. People don't realize it, but they grind their teeth. We call grinding bruxing, if you just rub your teeth together. And if you grind on your teeth a lot, you can wear them down. Well, if one of them happens to have a crown on it, well, you can actually wear a hole in the crown. You see this a lot on the older style porcelain fused to metal crowns where it's the metal that wears through, and you'll get this spot where you can see tooth under there. Well, if you grind a hole in your crown, you've broken the seal, And saliva then can get in there. And saliva is not just like water. Saliva has an enzyme in it called salivary amylase. And what happens is that enzyme starts to break down the cement. Once the cement is broken down, there's a gap. And the saliva still continues to get in there, and that brings bacteria and little pieces of food and debris and liquids that you drink. And before you know it, you're getting a cavity in there. And there you go. Remember I said the most common reason is decay? Well, that's one way you can get it. Okay. If your dentist used what I'm going to call a cheap lab, or a lab that's not so great, if your dentist sends the dental lab a great impression of a greatly prepared tooth, but they send it to a lab that's not really paying attention, doesn't really care, maybe they're sending it offshore to China or Mexico, if that happens, then chances are the crown doesn't have the best fit. And if it doesn't have the best fit, then you're going to get decay around those edges. More than if you have a perfectly fitting crown, you're going to get decay around those ones that was made by a lab that wasn't paying attention to detail. But there's this other aspect of that. You can have a wonderful lab, but if your dentist doesn't get a great impression, or in the case of an office like mine where we use the same-day crown machine called CEREC, if we don't get a good scan, meaning a replica of the tooth, then it doesn't matter what lab they send it to, because if the impression is bad, the best you can hope for is a bad crown. And I know you guys don't think of it that way, don't even understand all of the different steps that can that go into this, and that can be wrong. But that's the honest truth. So a bad impression, it's kind of like the weakest link, right, on a chain. You have this really good chain, really heavy metal, but if somebody snuck in a plastic link, well, that chain is only as good as the weakest link. So in this case, it's only as good as that little piece of plastic in the middle. All right, so now, if your tooth is over-prepared by the dentist, meaning too much tooth was ground off, that will make a crown come off. Why? Because you don't have retention. So picture a thimble. Think of a thimble. We want to prepare a tooth to be approximately the shape of a thimble. So that kind of looks like those Tupperware tumblers, the drinking glasses, where it's that shape. And if you slide one Tupperware glass inside another, you get these lateral walls. There's some friction there, and if you put it in tight, it's really hard to pull the two apart sometimes. So if we shape the tooth like that, when you slide the crown over top, which would be like putting two tumblers inside each other, one inside the next, it would create this mechanical friction, this retention, that means you definitely use cement, but it's sometimes hard to get the crown off the tooth to put the cement in. So the shape of the tooth, and if your dentist over-adjusts, over-grinds. So picture this: if you have the sugar cone style of ice cream cone, the one that comes to a point, well, those don't have that frictional retention. But if you have the tumbler shape, you do. So that would be a reason. I'll tell you what, I see this one an awful lot, where the person says, my crown came off. I don't know, maybe I was flossing too hard, and I want to talk about that. You can't pull your crown off with flossing, just so you know. It's impossible. If your crown is on there, and it's on well, great cement, great design, there is no way it's coming off with flossing. But a lot of people beat themselves up because they think, well, maybe I was flossing too hard. I need to cut back on my flossing. The answer to that would be, don't do that. Just get a better crown, or get a dentist that's going to put a better design under the crown, or better cement or something like that. Okay. Now, the other thing that can happen at the dental office is your tooth could be underprepared, not enough ground off. That causes trauma to the crown. And this is a real common one. Ask any dental lab, especially when you have a dentist right out of dental school. And I know the young dentists out there going, what? But by the way, you can't be on the peer review committee of the Columbus Dental Society unless you've been a dentist for at least 5 years. So if you're a dentist with less than 5 years experience, you don't yet know what I'm talking about. If you have 4.5, you're getting close, and you understand that 4 years ago you used to not take as much tooth away because you were kind of afraid, and then you wondered why the cosmetics weren't great, or why the occlusion was always tight, and I'm always having to grind these down, and then now you're starting to realize that it's you. We all go through that as dentists. You have to take a certain amount, it's 1 millimeter to 1.5 millimeters away, in order to make room for there to be a nice thickness in the crown and a nice fitting crown that can balance with the opposing tooth and not be too thin after you've had to adjust it a bit. Okay, now, there can be things that happened at the time of cementing, the time that the crown went on, such as somebody didn't mix the cement properly. The cement is very, very critical, and there are several cements that we use or can use. There's glass ionomer cement, there's this resin cement called Multilink, there's zinc phosphate cement, which is a catalyst-based system. You have, there's just, I guess I don't need to list the names because they wouldn't mean anything to you anyway. But with the older version, it's called zinc phosphate cement. And it has a liquid and a powder, and you have to mix it on a cool slab over a broad area of the glass slab, and you have to be quick because you have to it's an exothermic reaction, so you have to get as much powder in as you can, and this mix, and all that. And you just have to get it into this creamy consistency. And it's when you do that and you put it in, you get it in the mouth just right, and you hold it there, that it's good. But, maybe if I'm mixing it, actually it's so technique sensitive that I typically am starting to just mix it myself again, because I'm looking over at my assistant and they're just kind of playing with it, tap, 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 or they're doing it slow. I don't know why they're doing it slow, because you're supposed to do it fast. So finally I just say, get everything ready for me, and I'm going to mix it myself. But if the dentist wasn't looking and the assistant was just kind of playing with it, well, before you know it, it's one of those cases where it could be a crown that's going to come off long before it's time. All right, now we are about to do Dr. Kavitko's question of the day. And if you're just joining us, we are talking about crowns, 16 reasons why they come off. What do you do if they do come off? And is it an emergency? I want you to remember that flossing is not one of the causes of crowns coming off, so don't beat yourself up on that. And the winner of this contest is going to win free flowers from Weistember Florist. They'll be delivered to your place of business this Tuesday afternoon. But before we do the question, we want you to listen to this.
This station will not be held liable for any contesting during Dentally Speaking with Dr. Kavitko. Participation in the contest allows Dr. Kavitko to record and broadcast your name and call. One winner per household. Prizes are non-transferable, cannot be substituted, and are subject to taxes and fees. This station cannot be responsible for the inability to enter the contest, whether due to equipment malfunction or telephone difficulties. All decisions of Dr. Kavitko concerning this contest or eligibility are final.
I wanna be on the cover of Forbes magazine, smiling next to Oprah and the Queen. Oh, every time I close my eyes.
And now it's time for Dr. Kavitko's question of the day.
All right, and the winner will receive free flowers from Weistember Florist. They'll be delivered to your place of business this Tuesday afternoon. Okay, the question of the day is, which of the following can cause a crown to come off? Is it A, decay developing underneath, B, a hole being chewed through it, C, biting into a very sticky candy apple, D, vigorous flossing, or E, all of the above except flossing? All right? Remember, the winner receives free flowers, so go ahead and call 459-9769. That's 459-9769, so go ahead and call now.
Stay tuned to Dentally Speaking with Dr. Kavitko.
At Dr. Kavitko & Associates, a lot of people ask us if we're accepting new patients. They know we've been in business for 34 years and assume we're not. Well, guess what? They're wrong. We do accept new patients. After all, if we're doing our job correctly, we get our patients healthy, so all they need are routine exams, cleanings, and the occasional filling or two. That leaves us free to take care of you. So yes, we do take new patients, and we would love to take care of you, your family, and your friends. Give us a call at 614-262-9588 or go to drkavitko.com.
Dentally Speaking is his talk show. Dr. Kavitko. Let's go!
I bet everyone knows someone who is afraid of the dentist. In fact, 40% of Americans don't go to the dentist on a regular basis. The number one reason? Fear. Well, take heart. Here at Dr. Kavitko & Associates, we've been doing intravenous sedation since 1985, and we offer several sedation options, so we're certain we can help you. Want to be sedated for a filling? We do that. Want to be sedated for a cleaning? We do that. How about a root canal or a crown? We can sedate you for those too. Give us a call at 614-262-9588 or go to drkavitko.com.
Estás escuchando Dentally Speaking con Dr. Kavico aquí en su estación favorita.
And when you smile, I will smile. And next time when I look in your eyes, we'll have wings and we'll fly. When you smile, I will smile. And next time when I look in your eyes.
All right, we're back. We're doing Dr. Kavitko's question of the day. Today, the question was about reasons that a crown might come off. And it was A, decay developing underneath, B, a hole being chewed through it, C, biting into a very sticky candy apple, D, vigorous flossing, or E, all of the above except flossing. We have Erica, Karen, John, and Tina on the phone, and let's go with Erica. Hey, Erica, how are you today?
Good.
Good. Thank you for listening, first of all, and thank you for calling in. So, hey, do you have an answer to Dr. Kavitko's question of the day?
Yes.
What is it?
All the above except flossing.
That's right. Did you know that answer before you listened this morning?
No.
Okay. Then you learned something. That's great. That's what the show's all about. So, hey, Erica, stay on the line. We're going to make sure we get the information as to where to send those flowers from Vice number, okay?
Okay.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you again. Okay, now, if you're just joining us, I'm Dr. Kavitko. This is Dentally Speaking. Today we're bringing you 16 reasons that a crown might come off. What do you do if one does? And is it an emergency? Okay. So, oh, by the way, for those of you just tuning in, let me tell you that the first ones we've covered: decay developing underneath, eating a very sticky candy, like a candy apple, accidentally chewing a hole through the crown, which lets saliva get in and ruins the cement. If your dentist used a cheap lab that didn't make a crown that actually fit very well, if your dentist got a bad impression or a bad scan at the time they prepared it, if the tooth was over-prepared by your dentist, too much ground off, meaning no retention, the tooth was underprepared, not enough ground off, causing trauma to the crown. If your dentist did not properly build up the broken or decayed tooth before placing the crown over it, meaning think about it, you don't get crowns on healthy teeth. So if you have a tooth that's broken down because of decay, like down to the gum line or something, and your dentist just kind of puts a crown right over that, well, that's not going to have great retention. If he or she puts a couple pins or a post and builds it up, so now you have something that thimble shape that I mentioned earlier, then you have good retention. All right. And then the 9th one was mixing the cement improperly, which could be done by your dentist or his or her assistant. Now we're going to go on to the new ones we haven't yet covered. So we talked about cementing and having the cement mixed in correctly. Another one would be not cleaning off the tooth properly before putting the crown on it. So you can't, if you put a crown over a tooth that's still soaked in saliva, or you put a crown over a tooth that still has, plaque or something on it that built up, you have to have a perfectly clean tooth, and then you have to treat the surface of the tooth with a mild formulation that comes with these various cements to activate those little tags that we want to have it attached to. Now, also, on that same vein, is if your dentist failed to remove all of the decay before placing a crown on it. I know that sounds something that can happen, but it actually does. And I was called into the office once to take care of somebody that their temporary crown had come off, and I'm looking at it, and the whole cheek side of the tooth had this caramel color to it. And I said, well, how long have they been wearing this temporary? Thinking they'd been wearing it for months. And it turns out they hadn't. They'd only been wearing it for a week and a half. And I'm like, oh my goodness, they left decay here. So I wasn't really sure what to do. If the crown that was placed didn't fit, then you not only can get gum disease, but tooth decay, but it can cause gum disease because you have this gap and your body becomes irritated by uneven surfaces, surfaces that aren't smooth and shiny. So an ill-fitting crown. Now, an ill-fitting crown we talked about could be the result of either the lab not being careful, or the impression not being careful, or everybody thinks the impression's fine, and you get the crown back, and it looks like it fits the model fine, but it doesn't fit the tooth the same as it fits the model. And if your dentist doesn't notice that, and they kind of cram it down anyway, or put it on there and they're not paying attention, or maybe don't take a post-op x-ray, then they don't know they have an ill-fitting crown, and so that then leaves it open to decay, and it can become an issue. And then you lose it prematurely. I have people that have been wearing crowns that I did in 1980, 81, But I'm finding that the average length of a crown's lifespan is about 13 years. Insurance companies typically pay for a new one when it's about 5 years old. Some are doing 7 now. I think I heard of a few doing 10. Okay, so if you put the crown on, though, let's say it's a well-fitting crown. You've used a great lab. You've taken just the right amount of tooth away and all that good stuff and sent them a nice impression. But if you don't remove all of the cement, if you don't get all of the last little bits of cement particles away, then that becomes an area where food collects. And guess what? They get decay or gum disease or both. So even a good fitting crown has to have, you have to be darn sure that there is no cement in there. And more often than not, we take a post-seating x-ray to make sure that that's the case. So, okay, so let me just, let me go back and just recap the ones that we're doing in this segment. Not cleaning off all the tooth. The tooth wasn't cleaned off properly or wasn't dry. The dentist failing to remove all of the decay. Placing a crown that didn't fit properly around the edges. Not removing all the excess cement from the edges of the crown before the gum line. And now here's a new one. If the crown didn't completely fill in the space between the next two teeth, it creates a food trap. So when I say that, what I mean is you put the crown on, and you have to take dental floss and make sure that if floss snaps through just like it does in areas where there are no crowns. So it has to snap through both on the front half and the back half. And if it doesn't, if it goes through too easily, then it's going to be a food trap. If the floss doesn't go through at all, well, you can't floss. And so that's going to be a problem too. So it has to be just right. You know what? Looks like we're going to go to a break. When we come back, we have a few more of these to do, plus we'll get on to the what to do if your crown does come off and is in an emergency part of the show. You're listening to Dentally Speaking. I'm Dr. Kvitko, and we'll be right back.
This is Clark Kellogg. Stay tuned for more of Dentally Speaking with Dr. Kvitko.
Sie hören zu einer Rede über zahnärztliche Sachen mit Dr. Kvitko hier an Ihrer beliebtesten Station.
Here at Dr. Kvitko and Associates, we are intensely dedicated to providing the absolute best dental care. The word mediocre isn't in our vocabulary. We just won't take shortcuts. Isn't that what you want in the person you trust with sharp objects in your mouth? Of course it is. However, people tend to assume high quality means expensive. But guess what? We're more affordable than you think. Our fees are about the same as one of those chains. But with us, you get our 34 years of experience and our unwavering commitment to quality. Discover for yourself. Call us at 614-262-9588.
Hi, I'm Dominique Reichert. Like what you hear? Why not use the Dentally Speaking show to promote your product or service by becoming a sponsor? Call 614-262-9588 to learn how. That's 614-262-9588. Call now or send an email to drkvitko@aol.com.
Brighten your life with a smile that shows the professional touch of Dr. Kvitko.
Are your teeth crooked? And while you would like them straight, there's no way you would wear braces for 2 years. What if I told you that you could straighten your teeth in 6 months between now and your next cleaning? Would you be interested? Call us today at 614-262-9588.
I'm Grandpa, and I go to Dr. Kvitko, and I still have all my teeth. Real ones. Where's my glasses?
I'm back. This is Dentally Speaking. I'm Dr. Kvitko. And if you're just joining us, we are doing the 16 reasons that a crown might come off. What do you do if one does? And is it an emergency? We've covered 14 of the reasons so far. And let's go on with the next couple that I have here. We're on reason number 15. And they're not necessarily in order of the most important or the ones that happen the most. They're just there. There's 16 reasons. Okay, another reason would be trauma to a tooth that happens to have a crown on it from, say, a sports injury or a car accident. A car accident that can actually break a crown off. It can jar it so much that the tooth doesn't break, but breaks the crown free. And then another one would be when the crown went on, if your bite wasn't adjusted properly by the dentist, and so it might feel good when you tap, tap, tap. But you don't realize it when you go home and you start chewing and you do this sideways motion. Well, those cusps that either stick up on a lower or hang down on an upper, if those cusps are hitting offset, they're not hitting properly, that lateral force can actually cause the crown to kind of wiggle loose. It basically breaks down the cement by putting too much pressure on it. Okay? So that was the 16th reason. There's a lot of reasons. And, you know, when somebody calls me and says a crown came off, let's go back to what I said way back at the beginning. I know that they are just assuming that the reason the crown came off is because, actually, honestly, they're not assuming anything. They think the crown can be put right back on. They're assuming that maybe it just came loose. So cement just came off or something. And almost everybody I speak to wants to come in and just have me re-cement their crown without having to worry about anything else. And more often than not, it doesn't work out so well. So if you happen to have a crown come off, or you have one in a drawer right now that you've not followed up on, look at it. I told somebody just a couple days ago, get your crown out, put it in the palm of your hand, and tell me what you see. Does it look hollow? That would be the first question. Because if it's hollow, that's good. If it's filled in with stuff, not good. Why? Because that means that a piece of filling or a piece of tooth had broken off and is now inside your crown. If that happened, well, now you don't have a tooth that's tall enough to have the crown put back on. You need a new one. If the inside is light yellow, that's a good sign. It means that that's the cement. The cement's still intact. And if you look inside the crown you're holding in your hand and it's all black or brown, that's a bad sign. That usually means it came off because of decay. Is it an emergency? Is it an emergency? Well, only if your tooth is sore to cold things, air, getting on it. Oftentimes these teeth have also had root canals. So if there's no pain, it might actually be a root canal tooth. That doesn't mean we want you to ignore it and just go around without it, because if you don't get the crown back on soon, and that soon means within a couple weeks, well, the teeth on either side start to shift because they don't have anything to keep them apart now. So now those other teeth start to lean in towards the middle one where the crown's gone, and that is not a good thing. So make sure you get to a dentist as soon as possible. But since it's probably, unless it's hurting, it's not that true emergency, it could wait till Monday. If it's Friday, it could wait till Monday. If it's Monday, it could wait till Wednesday. Just don't wait more than a couple weeks. Okay, now we're going to, what I'm going to do, it's a new feature I'm calling Why in the World. Okay? Why in the world? We're going to do this every week from now on. And this week's topic, why in the world would you let your dental insurance company pick your dentist? All right? But that's what you think, well, they didn't pick my dentist. Well, of course they did. If you went to somebody on a list in their network, you've just let the insurance company pick which dentist you go to. I mean, come on. Of the 16 things that can cause a crown to come off that I just mentioned, 12 of them are dependent on the dentist's skills, the dentist's morals, and the amount of time the dentist has allowed themselves to do the procedure. Think about it. When I said a bad impression, or a bad scan, or the use a cheap lab, send it off overseas, or, you get a crown that you can tell doesn't fit and they put it on anyway. There's a lot of stuff that goes on out there. And if the dentist is on somebody's list, they're in the network, chances are they're working for 40% less. So when I mentioned the dentist's morals and the time they allowed, well, if they're trying to do something for a 40% discount and every patient is at a 40% discount, then they're going to have to maybe only allow 15 minutes to put this crown on instead of a half hour to 45 minutes. And there's not a lot of time to make sure it flosses right, fits well, no cement, all that stuff. Remember how I said we take an x-ray afterwards to verify? Well, I don't think they'd be able to do that. So choose your dentist wisely. And to follow that up, choose us. Choose Dr. Kvitko and Associates, because we don't take those shortcuts. Okay? Really, really need to think about that. Why in the world would you let your insurance company pick your dentist? Okay? And we're going to have more follow-up on that as the days and weeks go by with the show. Because like I said, today was show number 380. And I hope that you learned a number of things, because I know I had fun looking this up and bringing this information to you. And I bet there are a lot of you right now with a crown at home or it's in your purse or it's in the drawer, and you need to get in and get it taken care of. All right? So don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Dr. Kvitko, and visit my office Facebook page and like us. It's Dr. Kvitko and Associates. And why not call our office and become a patient? We'd love to have you. Be sure to join me next Sunday and every Sunday morning right here on your favorite station. Goodbye.
Before we leave, let me tell y'all a little something. Before we leave, y'all a little something.
This is Carly Red from Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, the hit show on VH1, urging you to tune in next week for another exciting episode of Dentally Speaking with my dentist, Dr. Kvitko.
If you're interested in learning more about this and other dental health topics, go to dentallyspeaking.com to access full episodes of Dr. Kvitko's show.
If you would like to book Dr. Kvitko to speak at your next event, please call 614-262-9588. That's 614-262-9588. Or send an email to Dr. Kvitko at dentallyspeaking.com. That's DRKVITKO at dentallyspeaking.com.